30 seconds. Forward. Contact light. Okay, engine stop. We copy you down, Eagle. Britton, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
About 1:25 at 700 WLW. Speaking here with Aron Ranen, documentary filmmaker, trying to prove, in fact, the man did go to the moon. And we're looking for believers and non-believers alike. Room at 749-7000 to Watts Line 2. And today, only the special Neil Armstrong hotline. No one but Neil Armstrong could call 749-3700. We'll have 3 lines there. Leave them all open for Neil and only Neil.
The reason I'm here in your studio right now is to try to communicate with Neil Armstrong using the 50,000 watts of your station.
It's a flamethrower, I tell you. Mr. Armstrong, come out of your shell. This is your opportunity.
It was perhaps the most documented event of all time. But did we really go?
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
What do you think? Does it look real to you? I was 8 years old back in 1969 and had no doubt about what I saw on television. But now, more than 30 years later, I wondered, is there any way to prove that it really happened? I began a journey across America to gather evidence and, at the same time, see what everyday Americans believe.
Excuse me, do you think we actually went to the moon in 1969, or do you think it was a hoax?
It's the first time I ever heard about it. Really.
There is a possibility it could have been a hoax, yeah.
When the shadows and different things were analysed and where they said the moon was and different things like that, it didn't look real enough.
When it landed, there wasn't that much dust being blown away. Yeah, he's got a lot of little things that add up.
My journey begins in cyberspace. I just type in fake moon landing and presto, instant documentary. I discover a book called NASA Mooned America, written and published by a man in New Jersey who only goes by the name Ranen. I convince this secretive author to come out of his isolation and meet me at this Holiday Inn in Totowa, New Jersey.
Nice to meet you, Ranen.
Yeah, hang on a minute, man. Okay,
Nice
we
to
got to
meet you.
unload.
Ranen is an inventor, author, and ex-member of Mensa, the elite club for those with super high IQs, a society he quit due to their reluctance to take on his controversial stance on the moon landings.
As soon as you see the foreground and the background go like this, you know it's a backdrop. This limb weighed 33,000 pounds, and it dropped onto the moon using only one engine. But on all, and I mean all, the moon landings, all 6 times, there is no crater, there is no dust blown away. This is typical of each landing. So the only conclusion is that this guy was put here by a crane. Okay, number 5 should show typical lunar landscape and sea rock. Is that the sea rock? And that is a clear letter C on that little rock right there. When you deal with sun's shadows, they're parallel. But here, obviously, this sun on the moon is strange, to say the least.
Hey, is the lighting halfway decent? Yes, indeed. They've got the flag up now, and you can see the stars and stripes on the lunar surface. Up now, and you can see the stars and stripes.
Renen's arguments are better than I thought they would be. The lack of any crater under the lunar lander, and these shadows, which appear to go in different directions. For a moon believer, this is perplexing stuff. What should my next step be? What would you do? Try and talk to Neil Armstrong, right? Unfortunately, all my phone calls to Neil's office in Ohio are answered with polite refusals. Neil will not do any one-on-one interviews with the media. Why won't Neil talk?
Okay, ready for me to come out? All set. Okay, I'm on the top step. It's a very simple matter to hop down from one step to the next.
Buzz Aldrin is the second human being to allegedly walk on the moon's surface.
Where were you on July 20th, 1969?
I was on the surface of the moon.
Lack of gravity force here.
What kind of proof can you offer us that you were there? What can you say to us?
I'm an honest person, and I tell you I was on the moon. If you choose not to believe me, forget it.
Beautiful view. It's got something? Magnificent sight out here. Magnificent desolation.
I used the phrase magnificent desolation, which on the spur of the moment seemed to capture the dichotomy of the magnificence of our being there and having accomplished this feat, and the utter desolation that described the scene that we had in front of us. Just no life whatsoever, no sign of anything, no breeze, no air, just the stillness of forever. And here was this magnificent little frail lander, the Eagle, that had brought us all the way from the Earth here to where people had dreamed about for centuries.
Who do you believe? Rene, with his analysis? Or do you trust Buzz?
But it's that gorgeous view.
I need more hard evidence and decide to dig deeper by examining each stage of the mission, from the actual launch to the moon landing, moonwalk, and finally splashdown and recovery of the astronauts.
12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11. Tower cleared.
Okay, we got a roll program.
Neil Armstrong reporting the roll and pitch program, which puts Apollo 11 on a proper heading.
How do we know the astronauts were really in the capsule at takeoff and not hiding out in some bunker while others sat in for them? Simple, right? I tracked down the man who actually closed the hatch on the Apollo 11 capsule back in 1969. He and NASA invite me to Florida, America's Space Coast, to the Kennedy Space Center. Gunter Wendt is the last man on Earth to have seen the astronauts before their alleged moonwalk.
There's a cute little thing. You see these cable trays? They were all over the Cape before, and some of them were just a little underground. And the joke was, if you pull on a cable and it pulls back, leave it go, it's a snake. Because we have lots of black snakes here. Of all the people I have been in contact with, may they be reporters, regular people, college students, high school students, there was never a question raised if this was a fake or not. What kind of proof do you require? I mean, can you prove there was a World War II?
Gunter and I begin to retrace the astronauts' footsteps here at Launchpad 39, using this rarely seen NASA surveillance footage shot the day of the launch. Today, this launch pad is an active spaceport, launching all space shuttles.
Okay, this is what they call the flame bucket. The flame would hit the flame bucket and then shoot up this way.
Gunter is going to take me up the same elevator used by Armstrong and Aldrin back in 1969. Once we get to the top, I'm going to ask him the big question.
So you were probably maybe one of the last two people to see them in the rocket, right?
I was the last one, not the last two, the last one, right. Because after I backed out of the hatch was closed. I was the last one to see the astronaut in it, okay? I can still, when the hatch was closed, I could look through the center window and see him in there.
And they were definitely inside.
There's no question about it. I mean, if that isn't proof, I don't know what you can do.
Well, what do you think? Is Gunter telling the truth? Or were the astronauts really hidden in some underground bunker? After my trip to the launch pad, I begin searching Cocoa Beach for NASA workers and other Apollo 11 eyewitnesses who must still be living here.
Keep your eye on this, because you never know what's going on behind it. Ha ha ha. I own a cigar store, and every astronaut that ever went up comes in here. And sometimes Big Daddy comes in here. Ooh.